Okay, I think it's a good place to start. Okay, I think you need to stop sharing the screen there. Thanks, me. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for our second spoken word event. We received really good feedback from the last event, so we wanted to host again and hopefully make this somewhat of a regular thing in the next kind of coming months. But yeah, so for those of you, I guess, just to start with like brief introductions in case some of you don't know who I or Natasha are. We are co-founders of this platform called Winter's Bloom, which at its simplest just aims to amplify many different voices, but especially the voices of minorities and those who feel that their voices have been silenced somehow in the past. So today's spoken word event is kind of a similar setup to the last event, where we kind of focus on the themes of the month. And we've kind of combined July and August themes, just because it's like, well, it was Natasha's birthday and it's going to be my birthday in August. So we thought it'd be like a nice kind of celebratory thing. So the themes that we are focusing on today are the themes of independence, growth, and nurturing. So to kind of like rejig things around, we thought we'd get warmed up by sharing a passage and a quote each, me and Natasha, that we feel kind of encapsulate any 1, 2, or 3 elements of the themes of the month. But very quickly, just in case any of you weren't here for our first spoken word event, what happens is that everyone is muted, so it might sound a bit silent or just me speaking at the moment. And when oh, sorry, I'm just also trying to admit people at the same time. And when it's a speaker's turn to present, we'll unmute them and also spotlight them. We'd encourage you though, if you would like a more kind of audience feel, to change your view screening to gallery view, which is like the right button on the top right corner of the little cube squares. That way you can just see like who else is here, but otherwise you'll be able to just see the speaker. And also to let you know, the event is being recorded and we'll have it on YouTube later on. But again, it's just mainly to capture the speaker, so you shouldn't show up. But if you are a bit worried about that, then feel free to turn off your camera as well. Yeah, I think that is pretty much everything. We do want you guys to also get involved. So feel free to type out any lines or phrases that resonates with you. It's a nice way as well for the speakers to look back and see what really spoke to the audience. And also feel free to use your jazz hands. Hopefully your hands are looking better than mine, to just show your appreciation at the end of every performer. I'm just making sure Natasha's actually, she's not here. Natasha's Wi-Fi tends to go in and out, so hopefully she will be joining us in a bit, but I will take the lead until then. So I'll start by sharing the extracts that I've chosen that I think represent the theme for the spoken word event. So they're from Ben Okri's book called The Famished Road. And I'll talk a bit more about the book afterwards, but I'll just start by reading the 2 passages that I've chosen. So the first one is from the very opening of the book. Oh, sorry, do you mind helping Natasha? Yeah. Thank you. It's from the very opening of the book, which focuses on the theme, or kind of sets the theme of origins and destiny. Okay. In the beginning, there was a river. The river became a road, and the road branched out to the whole world. And because the road was once a river, it was always hungry. In the land of beginnings, spirits mingled with the unborn. We could assume numerous forms. Many of us were birds. We knew no boundaries. There was much feasting, playing, and sorrowing. We feasted much because of the beautiful terrors of eternity. We played much because we were free. And we sorrowed much because there are always those amongst us who had just returned from the world of the living. They had returned inconsolable for all the love they had left behind, all the suffering they hadn't redeemed, all that they hadn't understood, and for all that they had barely begun to learn before they were drawn back to the land of the origins. There were not one amongst us who looked forward to being born. We disliked the rigors of existence, the unfulfilled longings, the enshrined injustices of the world, the labyrinths of love, the ignorance of parents, the fact of dying, and the amazing indifference of the living in the midst of the simple beauties of the universe. We feared the heartlessness of human beings, all of whom are born blind, few of whom ever learn to see. And the second passage, which is from the same book, is a conversation which takes place between the protagonist, Azaro, and his father. So Azaro asks his father, "Why is it the road is so beautiful?" To which his father responds, "Because each new generation begins with nothing and with everything. They know all the earlier mistakes. They may not know that they know them, but they do. They know the earlier plans, the original intentions, the earliest dreams. Each generation has to reconnect the origins for themselves. They tend to become a little wiser, but they don't go very far. It is possible that they now travel slower and will make bigger, better mistakes. That is how they are as a people. They have an infinity of hope and an eternity of struggles. Nothing can destroy them except themselves, and they will never finish the road that is their soul, and they do not know why." So Ben Okri's book, The Famished Road, is a trilogy which follows the story of the protagonist, Azaro, who is an abiku. And abiku is the Yoruba word for a child who is predestined to death. So they're kind of called like water babies or spirit child. And it comes from the root word abi, which means predestined to death, and iku, which means death. So Azaro is kind of always in this constant battle throughout the books with death. And so he straddles between both the physical and the mystical world. And the book itself, I think, is a really good exploration into traditional African religions. It explores how interwoven the spiritual world is within the material world, and how there's this kind of renegotiation and interaction between the two, and how that forms a very important part of many West African cultures. So I'd really recommend the book if you guys are into magic realism as a genre. It kind of reminds me of Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, if any of you have enjoyed that. But in terms of the themes and why I think this book, or these two passages in particular, capture the themes, I feel like it embodies the themes of both origin and destination, or perhaps origins is both the beginning and the destination. And I like the way in which it kind of focuses on that circular motion of life. And in a way, I feel like that's the way that we live our life. It's not ever really linear, but it's kind of that moving forward, but then pacing back, and that returning to your roots to kind of understand who you are and where you're going, as my mom would say. I can see her smiling in the audience. But yeah, returning to your roots to kind of become independent, to grow yourself and nurture yourself into the being that you want to be. And so yeah, I really like this, these two passages as a reminder to myself of kind of always going back and reflecting on who I am, so that I know how to move forward and to move more gracefully along my journey. So yeah, I'm going to see, is Natasha back in? Yes, she is, hooray. I'm going to pass over to Natasha now, who's going to share her take on the theme, and then we'll get into the spoken, the open mic. I think you have to unmute, Natasha.
Hi, I hope you all can hear me, and I'm so sorry about that. I'm living on a farm and we don't have the best Wi-Fi, so I have to go into town. Anyway, you don't need to hear all that, but I'm here. Anyway, so Sophia and I, for the past month, and just in general in our friendship, think a lot about growth and what catalyzes growth. And if you are interested, I will put it in the chat after my little thing. We've made a YouTube video about our thoughts on growth. And during the video and also in other conversations, we've kind of come to this conclusion that growth occurs out of moments of discomfort. And I think that that's a theme that I've felt reflected back a lot recently. And so the two kind of short quotes, even though they're a little bit simple, I feel like they kind of reframe the ways that I think about growth and love as well. So the first one is by James Baldwin, and it goes, "It's because I love America that I take the liberty to constantly criticize her." And then the second one is by Maya Angelou, and it goes, "Once you know better, you do better." And so I feel that these quotes, sorry, one second. So I think that these quotes have been on my mind a lot recently. And if you have been following Winter's Bloom on social media or through our WordPress, you can see that some of my posts reflect a somewhat aggressive and angry tone. And Sophia recently gave me a little bit of feedback about this. And I think at first I felt a little bit defensive, but it kind of reminded me kind of like what's reflected in these quotes, that to love someone is not always just to go along parallel with no problems. It's really to reach out and ask the recipient of your love to do better. So I think this is something that we are trying to model a lot on Winter's Bloom. We really want it to be a place where people can come together and talk about these very challenging topics or issues or things that are happening, and even if they disagree, to reach a place of respectful disagreement. So let's see. Yeah, I think this is something that we hopefully is reflected through Winter's Bloom, but I feel in the US, which is where I'm based, oftentimes a lot of conversations that you have or debates that you have with people can take on this feeling of like a zero-sum game, that there has to be a winner and a loser. And I think that these quotes remind you that it's not, when someone asks you to do better or when someone brings up criticisms, it's usually from a place of love. And that then brings up the discomfort and then allows you to grow. So I think that's kind of like the pieces or the little quotes that I wanted to share with you all today. And now I'm going to pass it back to Sophia, and she already shared her quotes. So I guess we will kind of jump into the spoken word event, and in just a moment I'm going to copy paste the set list so you all know who's going when. But the first speaker today is Nafisa. So welcome, Nafisa.
Hi everyone. Yes, my name is Nafisa or Naf. And yeah, so I kind of have a couple of poems to move through the themes. I have had a very weird week, very surreal week with lots of change and lots of growth, or lots of opportunities to grow. And it has been really interesting for me. So for those of you who might know me or might not know me, this time last year, I was in the middle of making a really tough decision to not return to university. I was at the University of St. Andrews, and it was really scary because of this notion that growth is always forward. And so I had done my first year, so I should have been doing my second year. And I didn't know how to deal with that. But these poems reflect kind of different stages in that journey, and they're not chronological at all. And I think it's important that you see growth, nurture, and independence as non-linear concepts. So yeah. Mama, will you braid my hair for me this weekend? I am sick of combing and twisting again. My tender head can't take all this tension. I need a solution. Put it away. Mama, will you braid my hair for me this weekend? I can't stand the way that they're all looking at me. I just want to be normal. I just wish all the girls wouldn't stare at my big, black, beautiful hair. In my young, fragile mind, thinking about the way I look, how I dress. And now this, Mama, it puts me under stress. Mama, you told me I was blessed. So what's this? They said that the glass ceiling was above me, but it seems like it surrounds me because they treat me like an animal with the way that they hound me. When it's braided down, at least they'll think I'm pretty. And my mama says to me, "You are beautiful. I will braid your hair, but because I love you, not because I want you to treat you differently, for them to treat you differently. I don't want you to change. I love you. I love you. I love you. You are beautiful. Mama, will you braid my hair this weekend to tell me how beautiful I am? Mama, will you braid my hair this weekend to remind me how black I am, how black we are? Mama, I love you. Will you braid my hair this weekend?" So that was the first poem. And the next poem is a little bit sadder. My heart, a cinder block, hooked to my spine, sinking me down. My lungs, lumps of coal, passively burned in my blood, cauterizing my flesh, a scorched earth. It is such a precise violence, a trained offensive, a deadly militia. It is not terror, it is not trauma. It's like growing a nail or blinking an eye, instant, without anticipation. It is to be murdered by a bullet in the back of the head, but even more delightful, like a ricochet, a spontaneous inevitability when you say that you don't love me. That's that one. And the last poem I'm going to read is actually, it's a collection of lots of different little poems, and it has grown in significance for me. And I didn't realize when I was writing like this that it would become something so significant to me. Anyways. This is what I wrote when I lived by the sea, when I lived on what felt like the edge of the world. Then the days were always short, but the nights were never long. It was like being in a snow globe, trapped. I was a souvenir. Everything I wrote by the sea is trapped in a crystal of salt. Each of the words, all of the worlds, all of the letters, from the moment that I sewed them together, have been trapped. Some memories are in bubbles, locked in vaults, petrified in stone, trapped in amber. Cave drawings for every moment of perfect symmetry, of two hearts beating between two whole chests. All of my life, I thought I was salt, strong and sharp, but always crumbling, delicate, but always stable, and almost always crumbling. The salt is the sea that could not return to the sky, is what they say. Can I not return to the sky? I want to live in the sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Nafisa, for sharing your beautiful words. I think your imagery is just like, it gives me goosebumps. I don't know if you saw in the chat, I said that, but I think it's, just very, very evocative and really paints the picture. So thank you. The next speaker here is going to be Sophia. So welcome, Sophia.
Thank you, Nafisa. That was really beautiful. And I feel like, sorry, I just wanted to also add that I feel like a lot of the feelings that your poem, kind of brought up were emotions that I think are shared, even to different degrees, amongst a lot of people who have had that university experience at St. Andrews. I think it's a very particular university in terms of the bubble, so I could connect to a lot of what you were saying, so thanks for sharing that. The first piece that I would like to share is based on this hypothetical scenario of the typical unearthed conversation between a stereotypical, or like with a stereotypical African uncle. I think it's probably a shared experience amongst many ethnic cultures that there are certain expectations that are placed on both women and men at different stages and different ages in their lives. And I feel that this is definitely the case with West African cultures. And so being a almost 24-year-old single woman, I do sometimes worry that some of my relatives think that my eggs are going to be expiring soon and that I have not met the one. And yeah, it's kind of like one of those weird expectations where throughout like secondary school and even university, you're kind of just expected to have your heads, like especially the females, are expected to kind of just be schooling and learning and being at the library all the time. And then all of a sudden you turn 21 and you're somehow expected to have found the husband from the comfort of the library, and then to have had like your first child by 23. And obviously these are just really random, or not random, very what's the word, unpractical or impractical expectations for the times, and I guess just everything, the times and the individual. So in case also that Zoom is like failing to translate my humor, my very dry humor, this is a massive exaggeration, but I just wanted to kind of play on that awkward conversation that has not happened with an uncle, but I play in my head sometimes. So yeah, the conversation also kind of revolves around a mango tree, which has journeyed with me over the last 6 years, I think. My mom, maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, I believe that my mom planted the mango tree 6 years ago, which just so happened to be, or the last 6 years have just so happened to be a really transitional period in my life, kind of becoming a woman, finishing a degree in September, hopefully, and justifying over and over again at every family function why I'm still not married. So this is called the mango tree. In our compound back home, there is a mango tree, which Mama planted for me. Sagging, it leans languidly against the gritty brick fence. Branches sprawled over the barbed wire, it bears its fruit on foreign land. 6 years it took to grow, they say. 6 years, my uncle scoffed. For a tree that bears no fruit for its owner to taste. 6 years of resources down the drain. For a tree that forgets where it is rooted. Laced in those words, I hear him sniggering. 6 years it took this tree to grow, and 6 for you to mature into a woman. What fruit do you bear? Where have you allowed your limbs to straggle? When will you start to pay your dues? The weight of expectation fall dense in his unspoken words, and I peer down at my outstretched palms, skin shedding in clumps, it lands on foreign soil. Overhanging in the next compound, a pregnant mango, sticky in its nectar, slithers out of its leathery skin and slaps the ground, splashes of its golden juices seeping into foreign soil. My uncle tuts, for the 6 years it took to nurture tree and woman, both failing to bear fruits for its owners, both transgressing the fixed boundaries. Thank you. So I don't think Solomon could actually make it. So next up, I'm going to pass over to Natasha, who's going to share a piece that she's written.
Okay, so just a little bit of context for this piece. It's a reworking of a Filipino creation myth called Alunsina and Langit. And in this myth, the god Langit and the goddess Alunsina fall in love and they have this relationship, but it inevitably crumbles. And one of the themes is that as she leaves, Langit creates the night sky to try to attract her back. And so if their relationship had kept going, we would not have had the beauty of the night sky. So I've always been really compelled by this, this theme of beauty from tragedy, because I feel so often, at least in my personal life, that I see the beauty in hindsight and oftentimes in much further hindsight. So this is hopefully going to be a longer, story, but this was just one section, and it's from the opening section, which is an exploration into Alunsina's childhood and formative years. You are my little star people, Mama says, towering above us. Over her shoulder, the horizontal light of morning makes footprint shadows of plastic stars. We lie on the carpet, my sister and I, face up, tracing constellations with our eyes. At night, she whispers, they will bring you home. Her fingers smooth wrinkles from my forehead. If you are ever lost, the walls glow in the dark, star-shaped holes everywhere. They will guide you home. The first time I saw stars for real, the ones high up in the sky, was when Mama ran away for the first time. At breakfast that morning, she told us we would camp out, just the three of us, stay up late around a fire and watch the night sky. We were at the farm, Dad's childhood home, way out in the countryside. There's nothing else like it, she told us, pinching our cheeks. You wait, she laughed. Way out here, when it gets dark, you'll see them all. See who, Mama? Lori asked. The star people, my love. Her hands, one in each of our own, were warm. Instead, we slept with Mommy and Poppy. They read to us in loud voices from books of blue-eyed girls with golden locks. They turned down the lights, cupping their hands soft with age over our ears. But we heard them still, the yells, the shouts from down below, the lullaby of a lost home. I used to think that stars, like magical hermits and volcano women, were the thing of legend. You came to me in a dream, Mama tells us, on a shooting star that lost his way. She runs her fingers through my hair. But we came from there, Lori points to Mama's belly. She smacks Lori's hands away and leaves us. Her fingers linger on star-shaped stickers glowing in the gloom. Outside, the sky is purple, uninterrupted. All right, everyone, so now we'll be having a short little break, which will just be the duration of the song we'll be playing. Feel free to get up, get yourself a drink, run to the loo, and when we come back, we'll be kicking off with a performance by Maz, who is a repeat performer. Yay! And just before we play the song, I just wanted to give a few words for it. It's called E Ala E, and it's by Iz, who is a Hawaiian ukulele artist. And this song comes from his third album by the same name. And I chose it because I feel it kind of goes along with the theme of nurturing, because this song in particular and his third album took a more political tone, and it shows, at least I believe, the ways that Iz kind of nurtured his talents and was able to show up for the Hawaiian people who were advocating for Hawaiian sovereignty and independence. So with that, have a lovely break, and we will be back shortly.
As far as Hawaiian music, all music, it's not especially understanding what it is, but feeling. We the voices behind the face of the Hawaiian nation, the Hawaiian race. Rise for justice, the day has come for all our people to stand as one. We the voices behind the face, the Hawaiian nation, Hawaiian nation. Rise for justice, the day has come for all our people to stand as one. Power of the people is the people. Oka piko ke aloha oka aina. Oka aina. We the warriors fought to live on what the land she can give. Defend the birthright to be free. Give our children liberty. Power of the people is the people. The people que aloha oka aina. Oka aina. Warriors born to live what the land and sea can give. Defend the birthright to be free. Give our children liberty.
Okay, guys. So next up we have Maz, if she's ready, or whenever she's ready. Hold on, let me see if she's about.
Hello, sorry.
Ah!
Hi, sorry, I was just, could you give me a moment? I was just literally going to the bathroom. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. 1 second. Okay, thank you, Sophia. Are you ready for me now?
Yeah, ready when you are.
Okay, this poem is entitled Looking for Love. She looked in the mirror, but she could not perceive. She was broken, angry, and very much in denial. She was looking for love in all the wrong places. She didn't know her value or her worth. She forgot her identity, no, who she truly was. So she started to pursue those feel-good things, the cars, the surgery, and the diamond rings. She acquired so much fake love, she became overwhelmed. So many ego strokes and likes, she almost lost herself. Searching endlessly for a love she struggled to find, deception took over and almost made her blind. Then she met him. She felt like she was complete, not realizing that her soul he would eventually deplete. He was aesthetically pleasing. Ladies, he was easy on the eye, but his true colors were to emerge and he would make her cry. Now people commented what a nice couple they were, how they were strong together, how they should never part. In actual fact, they were both weak and broke each other's heart. Public displays of affection had everyone fooled. Aw, ain't they sweet? If they only knew. He was an alpha male. Good job, had nice things. He was popular in his element, regularly went to the gym. She was enticed by what seemed to be on offer. He was potentially her father, her mother, her sister, and brother. He became all the things that she never had, so she held him tight, and he was her everything, despite the fact that she was sad. On Monday, she would pose for anyone who would look. By Wednesday, she was crying, unable to sleep, consumed by the opinions of others. Do they like me? Am I pretty enough? What if he leaves me? He offered no assurances. He encouraged her to maintain the facade for fear of being exposed. She found temporary relief when she hit the bottle. She plodded on and birthed an alter ego. He drove fast cars, wore designer brands, and could have any woman he wanted. And didn't he just know it? His arrogance knew no bounds. He grew increasingly conceited. Women offered themselves to him daily, so eventually he cheated. This led to separation, devastation, their worlds torn apart. They were looking for love in all the wrong places, but this was evident from the start. They soon replaced each other. He found a new plaything. She obsessed over social media. Both still empty, their voids grew bigger. One day, she looked in the mirror and saw her beauty, her potential, and so much more than before. She imagined and visualized that her life could be greater. In the midst of her turmoil, she connected with her creator. Emboldened and passionate, she discovered her life. She took risks. She was unfazed by what others had to say. Breaking free of her addiction, she rose up and overcame. Aware of her identity, she began to slay in her lane, no longer seeking to be someone's woman. It no longer mattered. That remarkable, unimaginable love is what she captured. After many years of bondage, she began to concur that the love that was the greatest was already inside of her. Thank you.
Thank you, Maz. I just want to say, I feel like you are like a love advisor through your poetry? Do you have some secret, like, I don't know, another side job as well as writing? You're a comedian, right? I don't know if you wanted to like introduce yourself more or where people can find you as well.
Sorry, trying to unmute. Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry. I think, well done, Sophia. Yeah, I do. My main job is I am a mental well-being coach. But yeah, I've just been through enough sour relationships. So it's autobiographical as well.
Well, thank you. Like, it's very inspirational, especially for the single 24-year-old who is still disappointing many African uncles back home. So this is what I'm avoiding, so it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Maz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maz. I love all of your the poems that I've heard so far. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in there. I just wanted to, I know that there was, Amos had said they wanted to share something, but I don't see him here. Are you by any chance here? And I'm just missing you. I'll give you a second to, okay, well, then if there's no Amos, then why don't we move on to Sophia Natasha, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. Please correct me. But yeah, you're up if you are ready.
Hello, thank you. Sorry, I'm not I'm not sure what I'm going to read yet. So I'm Sarvin, I'm from London. Well, not originally, but I live in London. I'm a writer, I'm also a psychotherapist. So I was just thinking, which poem should I read?
Feel free to read multiple as well if you don't want to choose. We're happy for that.
Okay, thank you. I was like, oh, growth. All my poems are so depressing. Okay, I'm gonna read. I'll just read this one. So I'm reading it off my phone. You should still be able to see me. Okay. I take it in strides, slowly, then pick it up so quickly, like I forgot what slow even means. And meanwhile, my head flies high, higher than the beast I used to be when I use things to make me high. And meanwhile, I forget about peace, about slow, but it's all good. I have it on my to-do list. Just be. Be. Go slow. So I try to do being. I do it so hard that my anxiety peaks. Why can't I get this right? I scream. At no one. No one is here. I'm reminded of how lonely I am and how much work I have to do on myself to learn how to slow down. So I cook. Every recipe needs a chef to be accurate, passionate, and stocked up with ingredients I never could have imagined or conjured up myself. So I tell myself I need to learn how to add a bit of salt to my misery, how to catch that sugar high before it really gets to me, how to cook healthily, buy so much stock that I can't breathe. And when I'm all done, I'm too exhausted to eat. And I forget everything I've learned about how to enjoy taste, flavor, and texture. I wolf it down so I can't feel my shitty feelings. There we go. I've self-cared. Now I can tick it off my list. Just look at me. Meanwhile, I don't go slow. My mind is racing. I never knew I could be so abrasive. And maybe I'm Satan. I convince myself of another quick analogy, another mystery mental health disease I can feast on and hope that one day I'll be healthy. Thank you. Okay. Let's see if I can read another one. Okay, I'm going to read another one. It's a very different tone. All right. Oh, the pleasures in life. The rain is just a stage for me and my toy to sprinkle and crystallize joy. The day is an opportunity for love, happiness, and enjoyment. It's fun, and I dance to the tunes with moves I didn't know I had. How open the possibilities. How incredible to surprise myself with my creative abilities. When I don't try or think, my body moves just in time. When it's not for you or me or anybody, it's for the moment, the rhythm, the movement. There are no rules. It's pure fun. My energy carries me, and I have oh so much to give to me and to you. I have more empathy. I've been there. Now I'm out the tunnel, and I know you will be too. Oh, now I believe in life. I believe in you too. And oh, fuck, is that beautiful. My excitement is larger than me and you now. I need a place to release it, a form of letting go and being at peace with it. It's all I really want. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those pieces. Both of them were, I don't know, it seemed to me dry humor. I don't really know how to describe humor, but I definitely got like some sarcasm and stuff in there. And also I love that you brought up the whole thing about like self-care just being another thing that you tick off your box. Because I feel like those are conversations I've had where like the self-care industry makes so much money and it's just like all these other things that you need to add on to your list of things to do. So yeah, I really liked that. Thank you. I'm going to read another piece, and then if anyone feels excited or called to step forward and share something, please do so, because if not, otherwise Sophia will close and we'll just have some closing comments and question and answers. Also, I did just want to mention Maz and Sarvin, if you want to share your social media handles or so people can know where to find you and follow you, feel free to just do that in the chat. So this next piece that I wrote during my master's program, which I completed in Scotland. And I think maybe Lilia might know what I'm referring to, but we spent a significant amount of time talking about, thinking about, and spending time with this oak tree that was in the Scottish Highlands. And it's a little bit hard to describe, so I might just kind of try to let the piece speak for itself. But yeah, it just like the oak came to represent many things. And I wrote this piece as kind of a reflective piece when a few of us went back to, at the end of our program, to say goodbye to the oak and just kind of process what we had just been through. So let's see. Dear Oak, the surprise I felt at the strength of your voice illuminates the extent of humanity's self-absorption. In many ways, before meeting you, I adopted the colonial savior mentality in my relationship to conservation and how best to address the environmental crisis that we face. I felt I knew, based on my Eurocentric education, how to define the world and thus how to break it down and protect its component fragments. But this assumes that the whole is but the sum of its parts. I had never before bothered to listen and was ignorant of the more than human voice. I unwittingly contributed to the theft of your words and thus silenced your perspective. For that, I am sorry. In the clearing with you, your voice is strong, picked up not only by myself, but also by many other people who sit with you. You remind me of the importance to step back, the beauty in allowing the stillness to impart the gift of speechless communication. The patience you have shared, the space you hold, enables me to recognize the universality of my voice and yours, the presence of yourself in me and myself in you. The simple truth, the existence of one in another, paves the way for deeper conversations, a meeting of fundamental respect born from the humility of recognizing the futility of ego in an interconnected reality. The wisdom you offer in its simplicity breaks down the assumptions I hold about the world. You ask me to meet you, being to being, and to listen, to sit back and to recognize your voice. Your words have the power to cut through the busyness with which I fill my life. Like the maternal hand which cups the back of my neck in times of anxiety, your voice stills my mind and reminds me that I do not stand alone. The Within the knowledge you offer are the words of all those who have come before, who are now and who will be. They ask me to remember the essential kinship we share, the communal voice we nurture, a voice which must never be silenced. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. That poem reminded me of, I guess, is it a tradition, would I say, a custom that my mum has kind of passed down to us. But whenever we're like walking in the street, and especially when it's a hot day, my mum will, like in her own language, say thanks to the trees for giving us shade. And I just really like that acknowledgement of other beings and other parts of our experience in life that isn't, you know, just so human centered, because I think sometimes we do get a bit anthropocentric in terms of how we view the world. So that was like a nice reminder as well, that there are older and wiser beings on this planet than just us. Yeah, so I think I will share my last poem. If in the meantime anyone, as Natasha says, feels inspired to read, again, it doesn't have to be your words. If there's like a poem, like if you have a favorite poem that you feel fits with the reflections and the thoughts being shared today, then feel free to send either one of us a message and we'll put you up next. Otherwise, this will be the last piece for the evening. So this poem actually was published in our first collection of poems, The Snake and the Cuttlefish, and it was inspired by this moment with my youngest sister, who is 12 years old. I'm looking at my other sister for confirmation. And I was in the bathroom braiding her hair, and it was a moment of perhaps like a flicker of a second, but there was this feeling of really deep connection in the physicality of braiding her hair, but also in that moment, just kind of thinking to how this simple act of braiding hair is being repeated in so many places around the world, amongst so many of the African diaspora, and I'm sure as well in other cultures too. But as well as being kind of replicated in that exact moment, how that act of braiding hair also travels back into time, really, and connects me to my ancestors. And so, yeah, I felt something especially as personal as touching hair. And if you have Afro textured hair or curly hair, you know that touching our type of hair is a very intimate thing as well, and that it requires a lot of nurturing and tender loving care that I feel other hair types don't. And so it kind of made me think of all these different layers of relationship and all these different layers of nurturing that a simple act like that kind of captures. So this poem, if it did have a title, which it doesn't, would be called 400 Years Without a Comb, which is inspired by a documentary that's actually on YouTube that kind of explores the impacts of the comb being left behind in Africa when a lot of West Africans were taken across the ocean during the transatlantic slave trade. So yeah, that's where the title comes from, 400 Years Without a Comb. I smooth the thick, oily product through your locks, my fingertips gliding over the rippled strands, and as my hand gently recedes from the labyrinth of coils and spirals, each one defiantly springs back, as if to say, I am here. Despite 400 years without a comb, despite traveling across oceans to lands where we are categorized as bad, for no other reason than that we refuse to be stretched into submission. I've survived the hot combs and chemicals. I've declined their invitation to tune down my unprofessional. Now watch my unapologetic curves boast. We are here to stay. Precious girl, fierce woman, do not spurn your majestic feathers and wish them to be anything other than they are. Our intimacy is not found in the glimmers of silk press ebony, nor in the whiteness of peroxide blonde. It's tucked away in the crevice of barbershops, between the clasp of two knees, in the bond of a lock or a braid. It's found in each and every one of our unruly coils that declare in the only way they know how, in their refusal to lay down, to surrender. Despite 400 years without a comb, despite too many lost years away from home, we've survived, we are here, we will stay. So thank you. I think that's the end of, oh, sorry, is there someone else? Mum, do you want to read? Amelia's telling me you do, but is that true?
Well, I can give you my perspective on growth, if that's,
Yeah, go for it, Mum.
perspective of Ojufindi. What growth is when you come to Ojufindi. For Ojufindi, growth is about knowing where you come from so that you know where you're heading. Ojufindi was a crazy little girl in a tiny West African country. As Ojufindi was growing up, Ojufindi has to go through a growth period. And the first one was going through a bush. It was the rite of passage for young girls. And when I think about that and think about Ojufindi, the only thing that comes to my mind, I'm going to sing it. Naye, 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 kondande, naye, naye, jila umaja uma, baki bondo gewa o konde, gewa o banyamato, why. When Ojufindi has gone through this passage of life, Ojufindi becomes stronger. Now Ojufindi is trying to find her way and her fit. And Ojufindi starts asking herself, what is growth? And Ojufindi taking upon herself to growth. It means you have to be independent, be able to do things for yourself, regardless of any barrier that is there. The first thing that Ojufindi did was start selling cow food and fufu, because Ojufindi have a dream. And the dream for Ojufindi is to travel through an iron bath and land in a foreign country. Successfully, Ojufindi was able to overcome that. And when Ojufindi land in a foreign country, Ojufindi become the alien in that country. With his wild African hair, wild African raw accent, Ojufindi take the road to find growth and happiness. And through this, he was able to learn many things, nurture herself, nurture a family. And now Ojufindi is in a position where now Ojufindi it's not only that she is growing, but learning from the little love that she has nurtured. So what is growth? Growth is a very long way, a very long road that does not have an end. And along those roads, there is many branches that we sprung along it. And when those branches reach maturity, then growth has come to an end. Because you know what? At that time, we want to reverse and go back down to our roots and be who we were once before. Sorry, I haven't got nothing on plan. That's what growth is all about for me.
Thanks, Mum. Yeah, okay, so I think with that, that's the end of this spoken word event. Thank you all for sharing your craft and the fruits of your creativity. Without all of you, this event wouldn't even be possible. And thank you for giving us some food for our soul, and for giving us some reflections and some things to really think about. I'm going to hand over to Natasha, who is just going to share a couple more closing words. And yeah, I think that'll be the end.
Yeah, thank you all again so much for joining us. I love hearing all of your perspectives and all of your awesome words and creativity. I just wanted to mention, so if you were at our last event, you know this. If not, this is just it's an ongoing thing until the end of July. But Sophia and I, for the months of June and July, we are donating 100% of the proceeds from our books, which are unfortunately only available right now on Amazon. But I'll have the links to both of them in the chat, as well as the link to our YouTube video. But if you wanted to try to get some of those for your friends, or anything to share, please feel free to purchase them in that way, and then all the proceeds will be donated to an organization called Unicorn Riot. That is, they're an independent news company, and they're really passionate about digging into the the truth behind a lot of these highly politicized things that are happening around the world. We also wanted to let you all know that we have this new kind of fun merchandise project coming up soon, so keep your eyes out for that, and that will be independent from Amazon. So yeah, keep your eyes out. We'll advertise it once we have more concrete ideas about it. And then also, if you are interested in becoming part of a virtual writing community, that's something that I'm doing a little bit on the side, setting up a regular meeting group. So just feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email down here in the chat. But yeah, so if you just want to like get together and hold each other accountable for our writing, feel free to join with that. And if there are any questions, we'll hang about for a few minutes to answer them. If not, you're all free to go. And thank you again so much for all of your lovely words and storytelling and all the many forms that it takes.